Welcome to the mix breakdown of the song that I released on Monday called Who Comes Next. Today I'm going to be doing something a little bit different. I'm not going to go as far deep dive into the plugins and stuff and the EQs and compressors. I will a little bit, of course. But I'm going to talk about things that I did differently this time for this particular song. Also, I do want to remind those of you who really like these mix breakdowns that I'm making that I have a Patreon page, and that's how this channel survives. These particular videos aren't doing great here on YouTube, so obviously I'm not making a ton of ad revenue, but so many of you guys actually like the mix breakdowns, I've decided to just keep making them, and hopefully it takes off. But I did just want to remind you about the Patreon page there. There's all sorts of special rewards and stuff that comes with signing up over there, so check that out if you like this and want it to continue. The Patreon page is going to be the way that happens. Okay, anyway, let's get right to the mix. Leaving the past in my way. I want to go back to so what I want to talk about first is the guitar parts, because I did something a little bit differently for myself when I'm using my Strat over there, which does have Texas Specials on it. Back in the 90s, that was the thing to have, and I still really like those pickups. I know a lot of people don't, but I still like my Texas Specials. That's a 93 Strat Plus Deluxe that I bought brand new back in the day. Great guitar. I typically never use the first position on that guitar on the switch, right? Just that single coil sound of the Strat. It's a perfectly cool sound. Here's what I thought about it before doing this song. It's cool or whatever, but I'd rather just use my Tele for a single coil sound. Now, I just wanted to use the Strat that day, and I wanted to do something different than I had ever done with it. Those Texas Specials are super warm and super nice, but that first position on the 5-way switch, really bright, really thin, right? That's a total standard sound that you're very well aware of if you're a Strat player. So, keeping that in mind, here's the guitar sound. Okay, so when it turns into the verse right there, right, after that intro section, it's still pretty beefy for a single coil. And that was something that I was really happy to discover, because I really like this big brute blues setting. And I think, let's dig a little deeper in. Okay, no, this is just the straight big brute blues sound, okay? So this is a setting right out of here, out of the Crunch guitar. It's the second one down. Something I haven't used before, because I love this sound, but with any of the other pickups on that guitar especially, it is so beefy and so heavy. So using that single coil pickup was an interesting way to contrast this really low end heavy sound. Let's keep listening a little bit. Okay, so I think you might be knowing what I'm talking about. Maybe I should have my guitar here plugged in, but trust me, if I'm using any other position on that switch besides the first one with this sound, it's just for me, there's just too much low end in it, for this song especially. Okay, so I also want to talk a little bit about the arrangement here. So listen to this guitar part right here that's coming out of the right-hand channel. It's just playing on the ones. I'm going to solo it just so you can hear it. Right? That's all that's doing in the intro. Let's listen to the whole mix now and try to pinpoint that particular sound in the right side, okay? Right? So you hear it. It's working with the snare drum. And in full disclosure mode, I'm pretty sure I got this idea. There's that TV show called, I think it's Last Week Tonight with John Oliver, and I heard the intro to that song, and I remember hearing that particular method used, and I was like, I'm totally going to use that in this song. When I was writing this song, I was like, oh, I should totally do that. That's where it came from. Go ahead and, go research and find that song. You'll hear that exact thing. But super standard, rock thing to do. But I just wanted to point it out because from an arrangement standpoint, it was a lot different than anything I'd ever done before on Music Monday. But it just gave it some sort of driving nature that I really, really wanted out of this song. And also, one of the things that I've been doing a lot more when I'm mixing these songs to really make sure that the mixes are good. Of course, I only have one day to do this, right? So it's important that the mixes sound good. Referencing my mixes against real songs, like professionally produced and recorded songs, that's been the way. If any of you have noticed that lately the mixes are getting better, it's because I started referencing my mixes against other mixes a lot more often and a lot more regularly. I don't do it like once and be like, yeah, that sounds good, or do it twice, it sounds good. I do it like 10 times. I keep bouncing back and forth between iTunes and GarageBand, referencing my mix against another mix. In this case, I was using Green Day. I would just sort of go through a few different Green Day songs, and it's like, where's the vocal, where's the high end, where's the kick drum, where's the bass, right? So let's keep talking about guitars, because there's another thing that I did in this that I think is interesting for you guys to learn about. We're gonna come in here to the automation, and we're going to look at the pedal state on the pedal board, right? So in this case, it's actually the distortion pedal, and I'll show you the distortion pedal I'm using is this high drive treble boost. This is one of my favorite ones. And if you look at it here, right, on here, you can see that it's turning on in the choruses. So just watch the little light on the high drive here as we pass this moment in the song, as we enter the chorus, right? Just watch, you'll see it turn on. See that? Okay. One more time. Okay. Super cool trick to do in GarageBand. It makes it much more like a live performance. Like I was standing in front of my pedal board and here's the chorus. I got to hit my distortion, right? Just remember, you can automate pretty much every single parameter on this pedal board. And it is one of these like features in GarageBand that just makes tracks sound a lot more authentic and like live performance. Of course, I'm performing it here in the room or whatever, but I don't have any pedals to push with my foot, right? So I have to automate it. I just thought it was worth mentioning to you. So I did it here, and I believe that it's also, I also did it in the other guitar part. So in regards to the distortion, let's look at the second guitar part, because I'm using a different distortion pedal, which I've never used, but I really like today. This is the Double Dragon, another stock thing here on GarageBand. But look how much I've worked this thing. Drives all the way up, tones, here. But look, squash all the way up, contour, mix all the way up. I really, really wanted this guitar tone to be brash and cool, right? So let's listen to it. Oh, and it's on pretty much all the time, this particular pedal. It's turning off a little bit in just this one section. There's just a sort of a little noodly thing going on at the end of a chorus. But anyway, let's listen to this awesome Double Dragon pedal. Oh, man, I don't know about you guys, but that is a badass tone. I really like this tone. Okay, so let's just listen to the end, and you can hear where the pedal goes off. Right, I wanted that to be not as distorted. I think it's driving just a tiny bit just from the amp head. But anyway, that's what's going on with that, okay? So those are the guitar parts, right? So very simple, just those two guitar parts, nothing too exciting. Let's keep going down the line. Anything you see up here, these are old guitar parts, these grayed out ones, right here. These are old guitar parts that didn't make it into the song. So don't worry about those. Another thing I want to mention here is the bass tone, okay? So like I said before, I was referencing this against a Green Day song or a few Green Day songs. If you start doing that and really listen to the tone of the bass on Green Day songs, it's incredibly bright. And I don't think I've ever used a bass tone that sounds like this. Right? And in fact, it's not even that bright, per se, like compared to the Green Day one, but that is really just because the bass strings on my Epiphone are kind of dead and dirty. They're fine. They're working still, but if you look at the head here, I mean, you can see how much of these highs. I mean, this one is down to 660, but the 6600 is down because that bass buzzes a lot in this room. So I kept this, a little bit below the midway point just because I didn't want to have too much of that buzz. But in general, you can see how much I did crank up the high end. I mean, treble down here is almost all the way up. Mids are up a bunch here. And the bass is cranking on this one as well. And I believe, let's go into the channel EQ. Yeah, see, even here. You can see how much I have been attempting to get high end out of that bass, which wasn't the easiest thing to do. But I was playing with a pick, so of course you want to be able to hear that pick sound. But just when I was referencing it against that Green Day song, I realized how freaking badass those tones are. I mean, obviously those guys are awesome and they have awesome producers and stuff, but that bass tone kind of was a surprise to me when I was really studying it. Just from like a tonal aspect, I was really surprised how bright his bass is in those recordings. Okay. Let's keep going. So one thing now that I want to talk about that's not about the mix so much, okay? I want to talk about how I wrote the lyrics this particular time around. I used a rhyming dictionary, okay? That's not something I always do. In fact, I rarely do it in the manner that I did it with this song, where I really just like sort of went through the list of words that rhymed and used those words to inspire the lyrics, okay? Sometimes the lyrics just flow out of me nice and easily. This wasn't one of those cases. I really needed it to be, I wanted it to be rhythmic. I wanted it to be, like rock, 80s rock, but it needed to rhyme in a specific way. So I used the rhyming dictionary in that manner, right? So like in the bridge, let's get to the bridge. Where is it? Here. Let's just listen to this.
I'm running and I'm chugging and I'm jumping right in, pumping and I'm rubbing up against her skin. We're hugging and we're buzzing till the funding comes in. The drumming I am loving as I'm breaking her in. I'm hunting, maybe bluffing as I drink bathtub gin. It's not nothing that I'm winning, I commit mortal sin. That morning came with warning when she kicked on my chin. Reminds me of a night I had in West Berlin. Whoever said try and try again never hung out with me in my moment of sin. I am older, I am colder than I have ever been. I'm in an MRI machine with a safety pin.
Okay, so that should give you an idea that there was a rhyming dictionary involved. Okay, so now let's go back to actually examining this mix a little bit, because one other thing that I did here that I think you will find interesting is that one of my vocal tracks is running through the guitar amplifiers in GarageBand. Of course you can do this, right? So this was pre-recorded on just a normal audio track, but then when I was trying to get sort of like a telephone buzzy voice sound, I didn't want to use the standard telephone plugin setting in GarageBand. I wanted something different, right? So I ran it through the Surfin' Stereo amp right here, right? Normal thing. I love this sound. Ran it through here, turned off the tremolo's on. Didn't turn that off. Reverb, distortion's on. Tone is turned up. Gain is turned up a little bit. In here, okay, look. So here, the low end is all the way out on this amp, and the high end has been jacked up quite a bit. Using the 87 on here, and let's take a look at the EQ just to make sure. Yep, okay. More was done here to remove like around 200 and just bring out the high end. Using vocal tracks through the guitar amps can be really, really fun. You get a whole new category of sounds to use, and this is what it sounds like all by itself.
I'm running and I'm chugging and I'm jumping right in, pumping and I'm rubbing up against her skin. We're hugging and we're...
Okay, so there was this distorted one, but as is the case with a lot of distorted vocals, it does make it very difficult to hear the words, right? So in an attempt to let you guys understand what I'm saying, I added this track down below it, which is basically just a clean track with a lot of low end removed from it as well. But just two of them together, this is what they sound like.
I'm running and I'm chugging and I'm jumping right in, pumping and I'm rubbing up against her skin.
Right? Those are the two of them in the whole mix.
We're hugging and we're buzzing till the funding comes in. The drumming I am loving as I'm breaking her in. I'm hugging and loving as I drink back the gin.
Right? Just a nice little trick. Use a clean vocal. If you have a distorted vocal and you find yourself like, oh, I can't hear the words, drop in a clean track below it. Maybe a little reverb. Try to remove some of the low end from it. Just make it sound nice and clear, right? You're just trying to let people understand the words. That's what we should be talking about here. Words are important, you guys. If you're going to write them, make sure people understand them. You want to enunciate as much as you can. Maybe I wasn't good at that in this particular song, but it's sort of a wordy song, and these words come out quickly. Okay, so the last thing... Oh, I know, backup vocals. I wanted to talk about the woo-woo, this part. Has that sort of like Raising Arizona, if you guys know that movie, the theme song for that movie. It's totally reminiscent of that, and that's for sure in my brain what I was sort of referencing. I used the Space Designer reverb, which is a really great one. Pretty much stock. I pretty much just turned on the 4.4 seconds big plate and just ran with it. It sounded nice and long. I don't think I changed anything about this. In fact, I think I just sort of let it be, turned it on, let it rock. And I mean, by itself, I think it's a great reverb. It's just a nice, super long one. It's a pretty sound as well in the whole mix. Now, one thing I could have done in here, and maybe regret might be too strong of a word. I probably could have brought up these sections, like the second half of these, where it's not as loud as the first half. You know what I mean? Like they sort of disappear a little bit. But I think you understand that it's there because the keyboard part is playing it, right? This is just the old 80s sync lead. Right? So even though the vocals weren't as loud as I might have wanted them, like today, I'm like, they could be a little louder there. It's nice that the keyboard part was there sort of supporting those notes anyway. So I don't think any of you were like missing it. You know what I mean? I think you heard it. I think you know what I wanted to happen there. The very last thing I'll talk about here is the fact that I'm using EZdrummer 2 for the drums. If you don't know, EZdrummer is awesome. They have amazing sounds. I've definitely bought a few more packages from them over the years. I have the Nashville one, and I have the retro, or I don't think it's retro rock. What's it called? The indie folk 4 mic and the indie folk packages. I have these ones as well. EZdrummer, is awesome. It works really well with GarageBand. Heads up, if you have the tambourine or any of the percussion stuff on in a normal auto drummer track, they do not MIDI map properly to EZdrummer. So you have to just make sure that you're not using any tambourines or anything. And I'll show you, for example, right? I will show you what happens. It's kind of obnoxious. I wish it didn't do it, but it does. So if I come in here and I turn on the tambourine, let's see what it does. Right, it's referencing some massive crash. If I turn that tambourine off, sounds like this. Right, it's just tom rolls. And, I mean, let's listen to these sounds because these are badass. The samples in EZdrummer 2 are so nice. I love using EZdrummer 2 in GarageBand because, It's easy to get sick of all those drummers in there, especially at this point in my Monday Music career. It has been a challenge to come up with new drum sounds and stuff. So EZdrummer, I mean, there's basically an unlimited amount of combinations of things. I mean, I can change the kick drum. I can do all sorts of, I can change any drum that you're looking at. All the cymbals can be changed. I can change all of these things. Snare, kick, all of it changeable. Toms. So I think that's kind of, we're getting close to the end here. And I do want to talk about one more thing in the mix. Not too much. I just want to back out of this shot and let's talk a little bit here at the end. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed that part of it. And wasn't a real deep dive into the specifics of it. Just a few features of that song that I think were worth mentioning to you. The pedals turning on and off and stuff like that. Now, like I was saying at the beginning, these videos here, these mix breakdown videos, are not doing very well here on my channel, but I do know that there's a handful of you, like 300 to 400 of you, that really do enjoy these, hopefully are learning from them. So I'm going to hit the Patreon thing again, because you guys, this is, I love doing this for you, and I would love it if you at least thought about visiting the Patreon page. Ad revenue stinks on YouTube these days, especially for a channel like mine where, I'm not getting as many views as I did in the old days. It is what it is. I'm fine with that. The core fans out there, there's about 1,000, maybe 1,200 of you that watch pretty much everything. The mixed breakdowns don't do all that well, but I do know that about 400 of you will sit down and watch this video and hopefully make it to the end where you see me spieling about Patreon. I want to keep doing this for you guys. I think that it is valuable for you guys. I think it's good for you to, learn these little tricks of the trade, how I'm able to do this so quickly. And I'm doing it every week, and I want to keep making these videos for you. If you guys can make your way over to Patreon, we will continue doing the mixed breakdown thing. And that's it. That's all I want to say here at the end. So otherwise, writing this song was super fun. I did a couple of things differently than normal. For example, what is the verse now was originally written as a chorus, and vice versa. The chorus was originally the verse, but somewhere around, somewhere around 11 o'clock in the morning, I was like, you know what? Those two need to be swapped because the lyrics weren't working out, and I couldn't, or the melody that I was developing wasn't working out as a verse melody. I was like, no, this just sounds like a chorus to me, and I need to make this the chorus. So that was some, little flip-flopping arrangement stuff that I did, but otherwise I'm pretty proud of this song. I don't know what it is, but I think referencing the mixes again, referencing your mixes against other professionally recorded songs, that is going to be a really invaluable tool to all of us, and I'm still doing it all the time. Going through my 3 monitors, listening on my headphones, making sure things sound right before I release it to you guys in one day. It's important that I try to get these mixes as good as I can, obviously, right? It's very important to me that they sound good and professional, but the whole point of Music Monday is not only for me to get music out, but to show you guys that GarageBand can absolutely positively make professional sounding music if you know what you're doing. It's always going to boil down to performances. If you perform the song well, GarageBand will, capture that and then spit it back out, right? It's all about the performances, you guys. The mixing, all of that stuff is so much easier if it's, recorded right? You got to record these things properly, get the right levels and all that kind of stuff. But good performances, good recorded levels, those are like cardinal rules that I never break anymore on Monday Music because it just makes it so much easier for me to crank these songs out and get everything where I need it to be by the end of the day. So I think that about covers everything, and I really appreciate you guys watching these videos. I really, really, truly do. And those of you who are on the Patreon page, I can't thank you enough. You guys are keeping this whole boat afloat right now. So much, much appreciation to you guys for sponsoring the videos and stuff. All right, you guys, I think that's about it. Have a great day. Peace and love. So much to do. Living the best in my